What's up, folks? Welcome to Watercolor Intro. This is where we dip our feet into the water, haha, dad jokes, of basically learning the basics of watercolor so that you'll be prepared when we do our next assignment. So, things you're going to need: water in a cup, right? Probably a watercolor brush and watercolor. So these were in the packets that were available for pickup. Hopefully you still have that sitting around. There's the colors. And don't forget, when we do this today, you're going to start with the light colors first, like yellows and oranges, and then work our way up to the darker colors, like blues and greens, blacks and browns. Alright, so you also probably need a little bit of paper towel or something in case you mess up. And it'd be helpful to have your laptop or phone available with your picture of your apple, unless you've got a real one that you really want to draw instead. So let's get busy. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch my apple, and it's kind of almost a circle. See if I can do this. All right, clean it up a little bit. So don't forget where this is. Comes down there. This is where stuff's going to come out. Pretty close. Alright, so like I said earlier, we're going to start off with the light colors first. And I guess maybe it'd be easier if I do it this way so you can see it. So I'm going to put some water on my brush, and I'm just going to gently put some in there. Right? I do not need to put a whole lot of pressure on my brush. I'm just getting water onto that yellow. Just in case you can see, I got a little bit of water in there. Now you could get a little plastic plate or something to mix your stuff on if you wanted to mix colors, but we're just going straight in with yellow. Right? So anywhere I see yellow over here in this picture, I'm going to put it. Important, leave the white areas white. So this little area back here, that little area there, I'm going to try to leave. Now I know that you can't see yellow everywhere, but it's really kind of like underneath the reds and stuff, so I'm going to paint those too. And there goes some yellow. I want to make sure I leave that white area. I'm going to pretty much do the whole apple with that yellow, except for my highlights, right? I want to leave that, this little area here. Now, if I wanted my colors to blend together, I would move on directly to the next color and keep going while this is still wet. So let's try that out. Sometimes you want it to dry out first, sometimes you want it to mix together. So the next color I'm moving on to is orange. You can see how it kind of blends in there with that. Now that I'm looking at it, I decided I really want that yellow to show through, so I'm gonna go back, and in between, anytime I switch colors, I am cleaning out my brush with my water, because I do not want to mix it in my tray. I just want to mix it on the paper. So I'm gonna go back with a little bit more intense yellow. And then I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to come back with my next color, which is going to be orange, and then after that red, and then after that maybe some green, and then after that maybe some blue, and then I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of black. But for now, I'm going to pause the video while this dries, and then I'll get right back to you. But this will probably be all continuous on YouTube. Welcome back, folks. I set my timer for about 15 minutes to let mine dry. If you happen to have a hair dryer, you could possibly use that to make it dry quicker if you wanted to, if you're at home. I don't happen to have one of those here, so I must wait. Don't forget, this is not regular paper, this is watercolor paper. You might be able to do it on regular paper. If that's all you got, then go for it. This stuff is thicker, so it's less likely to crinkle up. And taping it down at the corners probably has helped me out a little bit too. So moving on to some orange. Just make sure some water is in my orange. And I'm looking at these areas over here. Oh, that's way thicker than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to water down my brush a little bit. Come back in here and wipe that, pull that down here. I don't necessarily want to put it everywhere, because if you look over here, it's kind of striated. Like it's, and just like those spheres we started off with at the beginning of the semester, I'm trying to follow the curve or the contour of my stuff. See, it's starting to look a little more like my picture. So once again, I'm going to pause the camera and let it dry for like another 15 minutes. I set the timer just so that I don't forget, I don't get sucked into some social media or whatever. But if you don't want your stuff to bleed together, you gotta let it dry in between. Now, I'll show you what happens if I don't. Put some red on there. See that it kind of bleeds together. If that's the effect you're going for, you want a soft blend, you can do that. It seems to be working all right for this one, so I might go ahead with that. We're doing a combo of wet work and dry work. And it'll usually lighten up a little bit as it dries anyways. And if yours is real shiny after it dries, you know you're adding too much watercolor. Because if it looks real shiny after it dries, that means you're not diluting it quite enough. And don't forget to step back from your stuff so you can see what it looks like from a distance. Folks, looking like I'm getting close to being done with red. Maybe a little bit more intensity down here. And if I wanted to have all these little specks of white to show up through all that, and I had a white crayon or some rubber cement or something that would resist water, I could have put that down first. Another option is to go back with a tiny bit of white paint. You probably could get away with like whiteout or something like that, but white acrylic paint would probably work too once everything's dry. And I can see that mine's starting to pool up a little bit down here at the bottom, so I'm going to try to pull it back up and add that more intensity back at the bottom. Sometimes it helps me if I squint. Helps clarify what's really intense or really dark areas and what's not. If you wear glasses, you could probably take them off just to see if you're headed in the right direction. And if I don't want those to be as intense as they are, I can always come back with a paper towel and let it absorb some of that. But for real now, I'm going to let it dry for about 15 minutes and then come back with some other colors, some darker colors, maybe some purples and greens and blues, and eventually some black. See y'all in a minute. Welcome back, folks. So let mine dry for about 20 minutes this time. Something else to consider, if you've got other classwork you can work on for this class or another one, you could use those drying breaks to work on other stuff, so you're not just sitting around waiting. Alright, so we've used yellow, orange, red. Now I'm going to move up to, I think, a little bit of green maybe up in here. You could also use a blue wash because blue and yellow make green, so that's something to consider. I'm going to go ahead and get busy with it. So, and don't forget, if you need to, and your water starts to get a little bit too much color in it, you can always empty it out, add new water. So let's see, I'm going to go to green, some water in my thing here. So the main part I see it in is right over here somewhere. I'm going to start right at that hole in the middle and let it come out of that. Still trying to follow those contours. Like I said earlier, if I think that's going to be too much, I can always take my paper towel and dab it to suck up that color just a little bit. And we just covered complementary colors. So for red, the opposite would be what? Yep, green. So you can use that as a shadow. You could also use analogous colors. So I could use a red purple or something like that, maybe for some of these shadows down here at the bottom. So I'm going to try to see if I can figure out which one's the purple. Oh, there we go. And I'm just going to add just a little bit down here at the bottom. I don't want to go too crazy with it. Remember, it more likely will dry darker, I'm sorry, lighter than what you see originally. Add just a touch of blue in that middle part. To darken up that green where it goes down into the apple. Hopefully it won't bleed too much. Once again, if it seems to be too dark, I can always take that paper towel, dab it up a little bit. Alright, so we're getting closer to the end. I would probably suggest giving this part and this part another 15 minutes or so to dry before you add the black, if that's what you want to do. And once again, you could use a different color for shadow because you don't always have to use black for shadow. it's gonna bleed. So I'm gonna let mine dry again. I'll be right back. Welcome back again. So, time to finish it off. So we've worked through our light colors, our yellows, oranges, reds, worked into our greens and blues and blacks. Now that I know this is dried down here, I'm going to try to replicate this shadow. And let's go right into the black. I'm going to water mine down a little bit. And sometimes it's good to have a test sheet of paper nearby just to see what it's going to look like. Yeah, that's going to be way too dark. So I need to water mine down a bit. And try it again. Oh, that's still pretty dark, right? That's probably about what I want. Okay, so it kind of comes around here. I'm trying to stay away from that edge. I don't want that red to bleed in. This is kind of a soft shadow. If I wanted to soften it even more, I can go around the edges with just water. And then anything I don't want, just kind of dab it up a little bit. Now, I want that real intense black there, and hopefully it won't bleed too much. I'm gonna find out. And if you need detail work, one of the things I forgot to mention earlier is use just the tip of the brush instead of pushing down on the whole thing. So it's going to be right at the edge. Oh yeah, it's going to bleed. So as you can see from my mistake, you're probably going to want to let that first cloud of black dry first before you come back and do the intense. So learn from my mistake. Hope you're listening with the volume on. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to come back up here and maybe use some brown this time. A little bit right there. And I'm going to pause it and then come back and put that intense black there once this part has dried. Alright y'all, hopefully this is me finishing up my work. So, last time you saw when I added that black and this part was still wet, went everywhere and bled everywhere. We didn't want that, so we wanted just to keep it nice and sharp and just at the edge where it's really intense down there. All right. So I'm going to see if I can use just the tip of the brush to get that edge. That's a little bit too thick for me, so I'm going to try drying it up again. A little bit messy. Be all right. It's important that you don't rub back and forth. That'll just tear your paper up. You want to just dab on it. much better. Just right at the edge. And I might go back up and do that little area here too, just a little bit. Accentuate that out. And if I wanted to bring that out a little bit this way, I could. It's up to you. And then I can come back with my paper towel again and try to dry some of that up. And I can see if I can soften it a little bit. I think that's going to stay. And voila, that's it. So the next assignment will be coming shortly. Don't forget to let your stuff dry in between sets. As you saw from my mistakes, you can learn from that what works and what doesn't work. Good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Have a lovely day.